Hi, I'm Kendall with the Rawls Group. The old African proverb, "it takes a village," illustrates the essential nature of a team approach to succession planning. Succession planning is a complex endeavor. As such, it requires leveraging the expertise of a diversity of backgrounds. Collaboration and different expert opinions provides a 360-degree approach, ensuring the possible, probable, and potential issues impacting your long-term vision are addressed. To provide insight into common questions received from business owners, we are leveraging the village of our valued strategic relationships. As you listen to this episode, you'll be able to immediately apply the key takeaways and you'll come back for more. Now we're going to focus on what's the best way to make decisions in uncertain times?
The variables are certainly changing daily with COVID-19. To make decisions, you really need a purposeful process. You have to be deliberate, analyze the situation, analyze it on a daily and weekly basis, create a process to look at all the new variables. For example, we've looked at cases and death and social distancing and CDC guidelines and best practices, and as new benefits have come out, and employees that maybe have ended up with COVID-19, or they know people that have had COVID-19. All of that requires us just certainly to have a purposeful process to recognize all the variables, input the information, be flexible, to communicate those decisions back out. Often as a business owner, we're so focused on the day-to-day and continuing to keep the company growing that we don't have this type of process in place. And I think the only way to get through something like this is to create a more certain, deliberate process. And you realize that as part of that process, you may need instant legal information about the implications of what's happened. You may need information from your insurance company, your benefits. So it's not just you, it's also surrounding you with the best possible advisors that can instantly provide that information to make the right decision. Again, requiring some type of purposeful process. And last, I would summarize this decision process. I would make sure you've put this down to ensure you follow a pandemic process that accounts for all these new variables, all these new changes. We've never been through anything like this. So I think reflecting back on what's happened on the last 4 or 5 months and creating a written process is just as important.
Well, the best way to think about making decisions in uncertain times is to really think about core values and what it is you're trying to achieve. And that will really provide guidance on the specific decisions or the specific tactics that you use. So for example, a dealership group managing through this very crazy 2020 could think about trying to preserve employment, for example, preserve as many jobs as possible. It could be about maximizing near-term profitability if they're thinking about an exit, for example, or needing to improve operations for other financial reasons. So it's really important to think about what's core right now, what's driving the needs of the business, and then making those tactical and strategic decisions on a day-to-day, week-to-week, and month-to-month basis with those in mind.
So the question I've been asked is, how do you make decisions in uncertain times? And certainly, we're currently living in uncertain times. They're volatile, they're uncertain, they're complex, and they're ambiguous. So the best way to make a decision today is the same way that it was a good way to make a decision before there was a pandemic involved in the crisis. Step number one is you want to identify the problem. Too many times people get all wrapped up in symptoms rather than causes. And a lot of times a symptom may be something that goes along with it. It's conditional, but it is not causative. So what we want to look at are, what are the real causative factors for the problem you're dealing with? A lot of times I hear our clients tell me, what we really need in our organization is a problem solver. And I tell them, the first thing you need is a problem identifier. Let's work on the symptoms first, and then we can get to the root causes of those symptoms and deal with the real problem instead of just what appears to be what is causing us a lot of angst at the moment. Step number 2 is to identify some alternatives, because in many instances, we approach a problem as if everything we had as a tool were a hammer and all of the problems are a nail. So part of what we have to do is figure out what tools are available for us right now to begin resolving some of the issues that are associated with the causes. Step number 3 is choose. Choice is a very difficult option, and many times we decide to develop so many options that we become option bound, and it really paralyzes us and keeps us from moving forward, which in essence is step number 4, and that's implement the solution that you've decided that you want to follow and put in place. In order to have that happen without a great deal of resistance from other people, you need to do 3 things. Step number 1, you have to let people know that conditions have changed and that there's a need to do some things differently to take care of the problem. Step number 2 is you have to make the solution simple enough so that they're not intimidated by it. And step number 3 is you have to give the old way of doing things that may in fact have created the problem that you now have to deal with a decent funeral. And a way that you do that is to remind people that up until now, the way that we used to do things was a great aid to us because it provided us consistency and predictability. From this point forward, especially in uncertain times, we're going to be dealing with things that are uncertain, they're complex, and they're ambiguous. So keep it simple, give the old way a decent funeral, and give people time to adjust to the new solutions to what may have been old problems.
Thank you to our strategic partners, The Village, for participating and sharing your perspective. Do you have a burning question you want to discuss with an expert? Feel free to submit it via the Ask an Expert link featured on the page. Continue to listen to this series now or come back later for more. Each question featured may want you to learn something new.